Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. This, of course, being our post-game instant reaction to a tough loss, another ridiculously insane game for the Baltimore Ravens coming down to the wire. Glenn, that was certainly an emotional ride. You know what's crazy? Our kicker almost single-handedly won that game. I mean, about as close as you can get, right? Like to single-handedly winning the game as a kicker.
If they get 15 more yards, I think he does win the game.
Jeez, a whiz.
Crazy.
Quite a crazy one. A lot of good, a lot of bad, and we're going to get into all
some
of
good.
it.
I'd say some good and a lot of bad.
Yeah. So some good and a lot of bad. A silver lining, how about that? To a lot of bad. In that I thought this was going to be a blowout. So absolutely, I'm working on my saltiness and my maturity as a human being. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm embarrassed. There's no reason that we should have been in this game. Not a single one. You can't think of a valid reason other than this. Oh, it's the NFL any given Sunday. Oh, yeah? Okay, sure. Name our corners by the end of that game.
If they would have lost that game, I mean, you talk about, first of all, schedule makers completely gave them, did them a huge favor. And then you add the fact that Lamar goes down and Calais goes down. And, you add that on top of it and it would have been, but ultimately the Browns do come away with the win 24-22. So, I mean, I guess you got to give credit, but yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, if the Ravens were able to pick up that final first down and get a few more yards after that, I have confidence that Justin Tucker would have won the game for the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, I as good as you can feel about a loss based on all the adversity, I hate losing, like especially to the Browns, and especially like Baker Mayfield to me is vomit worthy. Like he gives me nausea because I just don't like him as a human. And so every time they say anything glowing about Baker, I just try to, I just pop a Tums and try and keep my vomit inside my mouth. So it's just difficult for me. But my goodness, so much to talk about. We're going to get into it, and I don't want to miss anything. So, there's a lot of storylines. A few things I want to cover is, people already said in the chat, quarterback controversy. Obviously, we know the answer to that. But I think more importantly, let's talk about Tyler Huntley a bit moving forward and the potential of that. And just to hit on one thing that you mentioned before we get, I'll let you take off with some stats here. Think about this, Glenn. You're right. The schedule makers did them a favor. So in 3 weeks, they played the Ravens twice, and that was it. Between the first game and the second game, just like you said, think about this, right? You're telling Stefanski this. Okay, the difference between the first game and the second game health-wise for the Ravens will be no Marlon Humphrey, no Lamar Jackson, and no Calais Campbell. And you're going to win by 2?
Yeah.
You're going to win by 2, and it's going to come down to the last second. You have to get a 4th down stop. Absolute embarrassment, in my opinion. So anyway, let's before we get into stats here, let's get to Ravens O's Nation. No more victories for me. I'm tired of losing. I get it. Like, I'm not saying it's a moral victory. I'm just saying that it's an embarrassment for the Browns. It's really
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if the Browns go into the playoffs, nobody's going to go and, that was an embarrassing win for, like, nobody's going to care anymore. A win is a win, and that's it, and a loss is a loss for the Ravens. So, I mean, I tend to agree with them. But, man, the fact that the Ravens were even in this game, I mean, you got to credit goes to a few guys, quite a few guys, I should say. The fact that the Ravens were able to make this such an interesting finish and had a chance to win the game if they could have done a little bit more in that final drive. But I want to talk about a little bit of numbers here. So Lamar Jackson, before he goes out, was 4 for 4 for 17 yards, was sacked once, and had 2 carries for 5 yards. But the story of the day at the quarterback position for the Ravens was, of course, Tyler Huntley goes 27 of 38, 270 yards and a touchdown. Should have had 2 touchdowns. How does that Bateman throw and catch, how does that get called short?
I don't know, man. You watch it frame for frame, and it's pretty clearly a touchdown.
Obviously.
Yeah. And then on top of that, Tyler Huntley, once again, no quarterback controversy, but 99.7 QBR. Pretty impressive, man.
The dude balled out. And, I mean, look, he played a hell of a game in Chicago, but at least he had some notice and he had practice time throughout the week. This he had nothing, no practice with the ones all week like he did in that Chicago game. And it's not like he knew they said 2 hours before the game. I think they know a little bit more that, before that
Yeah, they had
against
an
Chicago.
inkling, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, when the guys doubled over on your team playing on the way there, I think you got a pretty good idea. But the point is, Tyler Huntley did this coming cold off the bench and did what he did. So huge credit to him. And then obviously, if you go down the line, Devonta Freeman had an okay game. I mean, he didn't have a great game, but he had an okay game. Goes 13 carries, 64 yards, had a long of 21. But on top of what Tyler Huntley did through the air, he had 6 carries for 45 yards and was out there putting moves on people. Had some people looking silly out there. I mean, Jimmy, how proud were you? Because, I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone, quicker in the corner of Tyler Huntley than you were. But, of course, that is your alma mater.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've said it once from the very beginning, Glenn. I'll say it again. They kept saying it, undrafted. Tyler Huntley does not get through 7 rounds of the NFL draft in a normal year. He showed it today. Just another example why he is one of the best backups in the NFL. Poised, patient, unfazed, athletic. He can rip it when he has to. Look, he's not Lamar Jackson, guys, but I'm just saying as a backup, I think that there's a chance that one day he has a chance, not here in Baltimore, but to fight for a starting job, right? Like, I think you could argue that he's better than Heineke, like amongst some other, guys in the NFL. I think that's fair to say. I don't think I'm reaching there. So very proud of him. The fact that he came in and was poised. Look, I'm sitting next to the couch and I was like, yeah, this game's going to be 43 when he came in the game. That's what I told my wife. And she's like, well, look, I'm sending him good jujus. I think that he's going to come. Like, we're down by 17 or whatever, 14 at this point. She's like, yeah, we won a game in Chicago. I'm like, he hasn't come back from a deficit. So he did a lot of good things, showed a lot of good things in this game. And of course, we'll get into that. These super chats are flying in here, Glenn. Let's, before I get too far down a rabbit hole, let's get into them. Don't you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Tone the Virgo says that vault better contain more plays involving Bateman. 100%. I mean, I had multiple notes about Rashod Bateman, but the biggest one was just he's the real deal. I mean, there is just no doubting this guy is the truth. He had 7 catches, 103 yards, should have had a touchdown, but made tough grab after tough grab, but also showed some real impressive moves after the ball is in his hand as far as making guys miss and getting through some tackles and turning, a short to moderate gain into a big gain. And did so, had 7 catches on just 8 targets. So it's not like there wasn't a lot of wasted targets coming his way. So yeah, shout out to Rashod Bateman. I think all that overblown, the Instagram stuff, they eliminated. Oh, excuse me. They erased some of those, man, they erased some of those doubts, or I don't even know what the controversy is certainly over in Baltimore.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And that was funny. That burp made me think of when I burp my son. He should burps uncontrollably.
Dude, but I'm getting older. You know what I realized? Totally, a little side note. As you get older, burps sneak out and so do farts. Anyway, all right. I'm just saying they sneak out at inappropriate times.
From a 34-year-old. I'm getting older over here.
They used to. That's all I'm saying.
But I understand. I understand your point. I think that, and a lot of people are saying Bateman over Hollywood, like whatever. I think that
Hollywood had some nice plays as well.
But I think on top of it, in any offense these days, you probably need like a 1A, 1B type scenario. I mean, there are some teams that have just a 1A, but even then, they have a solid supporting cast. So yeah, Bateman is a great player, showing out, great hands, smooth athlete, and had a lot of great plays today. Let's get to Tim.
Yeah, Tim says, go ahead. I'll go. All right, we need 17 to 23 yards for Hall of Famer JT, and we throw a 60-yard bomb on first down. So effing sick of this mentality with Wink and Roman. Yeah, I mean, I just wonder, is this one of those things where, look, the defense knows what you need to do as well, and maybe – I mean, it could be a case of outsmarting yourself, or it could be a case of if you get it, you're smart. If you don't, you're an idiot. Because the defense knows it as well.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, while that might have been the play as it was drawn up, if it wasn't there, this is the Hollywood play, right, where he overthrew him. That's what he's talking about. Yeah, if it wasn't there, he's not throwing that ball. Yeah. But the point is that really it's not on the play call. The play was there. He's got to make the throw. Like Hollywood shook him. I mean, he was open. it was really on Huntley that didn't make the throw. So I'm not upset with the call. You got to make the throw. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, we can get into it, more a little bit later, but I don't think that. I'd be hard pressed to really start banging on the coaches when you look at all that was stacked against the Ravens and they had an opportunity to win the game. I mean, it's hard to really lay the blame at their feet when. I mean, this team should have been blown out if you look at everything that was stacked against them.
Yeah, there's no reason that they shouldn't have taken care of business and beat the pants off the Ravens. So yeah, on the same note, you're talking about Wink, we know for sure now that it doesn't matter who's in the secondary. Wink's coming.
Yeah, he's
coming. Now, I don't know if the percentage was as high this game. Certainly he brought the heat, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he challenged Baker. And challenge those receivers. And, look, Donovan Peoples-Jones made some nice plays. He had 5 catches, 90 yards. Definitely made some plays out there, but they challenged Baker.
Nothing in the second half.
Yeah. You got to give credit where it's due. I mean, Cleveland was shut out in the second half of this game. So, it's hard to certainly criticize Wink when Cleveland has 0 points in the second half of a close game. I don't know. It's tough for me to find a good reason to criticize. Def Debata says, what's the news for Lamar? Heard he was out for the season. I haven't heard anything. Let me see here. I'm going to pull up and go to our trusted guy, Jeff Zrebick of The Athletic. You
guys got to be careful of them sources.
Yeah, Jeff Zrebick tends to be my go-to. Him, Jamison Hensley. There's a few guys out there that you can certainly trust. Apparently, it's right now, Harbaugh announced it was an ankle sprain. But of course, there's many degrees to an ankle sprain. If it's a high ankle sprain, that could be at most a 6-week injury. I mean, so it depends on what the severity is of the injury. But I will say this: he already had that ankle wrapped throughout practice this week because of the tweak on the yard marker against Pittsburgh. So
thanks Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's already a weakened area, and then looks like he worsened the issue. So we'll see how it goes this week, but. Man, I tell you what, I was pretty down in the dumps when that happened.
Oh, dude. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, put a fork in me. Oh, my goodness. It was it was pretty sad. Bryson Thorne says this season is emotionally draining, patiently waiting on news about Lamar's injury. I'm sure Harbs won't address it until next week if it's serious. So a few things there. This season is emotionally draining. I'm pretty numb at this point.
Yeah.
Patiently waiting on Lamar's injury. Yes. Agreed also. And agreed. I'm sure Harbs won't address it until next week if it's serious. Yeah, I mean, I agree on all accounts. It's definitely draining. But I think if you're a fan of a team and you ride or die with them, even if they're out of it, still emotionally draining. You get up for every game, just like the players do. You get excited for every game. So while this one's been especially draining, and I get it, I mean, it's every season. By the end of every season, it's always because only one team wins it all. And even then, if you win it all, it's still emotionally draining by the time you're done partying. That's just football. That's what we love about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. But I'm going to get into some more numbers here, and I got to talk about my guy, Mark Andrews. 11 catches, 115 yards, touchdown on 11 targets. Every ball thrown his way, he hauled in, even if it wasn't necessarily on the numbers. The guy was big time, and big time after the ball was in his hands, breaking and towing multiple guys down the field, turning a medium gain into a big gain. Gets the big time touchdown. That's one of the things he's
added to his game, I feel like. Don't you think this year where he's really looked more to, not that he wasn't before, but turn it upfield and
he's definitely
shown some elusivity and also mixed with his. He's always been physical, but the elusivity I feel like has improved this year.
And I mean the overall physicality of his game, his blocking has come. I mean, miles since he was a rookie. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Like, he's not a bad blocker anymore. I mean, he might not be one of the elite, but he's a good blocker. And it helps, I guess, when you're absolutely gigantic and shredded. It certainly doesn't hurt. But also, Marquise, 5 for 41 on 8 targets. Did have a couple where if the ball was on the money, at least 2 of them, he was open. He had a step and it just came up shy. But
brutal.
But I don't want to completely gloss over the fact that Tyler Huntley did have a couple costly fumbles. The one, you come out of halftime, an impressive drive, get all the way down, and he gets blindsided and fumbles, inside the 10-yard line. Just think if they get just 3 there, Jimbo, this might be a different game.
Or if they don't get the 6
on the scoop and
we
score.
win by 3, right?
Yeah, so I mean, he definitely wasn't perfect, but under the scenario he was put into,
Yeah.
still tip
You
of
know
the
what's
hat to him.
funny? Myles Garrett outscored Baker Mayfield in the second half.
That is crazy.
You
That is
bum.
absolutely crazy. I
You
mean, look, at
bum.
halftime, Jimmy, the Ravens had 5 first downs and they had 4 penalties for 60 or 80 yards. I mean,
Yeah, that was the show. The refs were the show today. I think we had 10 penalties.
yeah, let's get into some of these because first of
Yeah.
all, that
Well,
penalty.
and really quickly, before we move on from that, I want to talk about
Okay.
Andrews real quick. He also
Okay.
broke, I think, the single season record for the Ravens for receiving yards for a tight end today. So just
Shout out.
another.
That's not
Yeah.
easy. If there's
No,
one
we've
thing
had
that
some
we
tight
have,
ends here.
yeah, exactly. We've had a lineage of talented tight ends. So, but yeah, I mean, when I have a note here, just penalty, penalty, penalty. It seemed like
Yep.
anytime anything was happening, offensively or defensively, I was just looking around and boom, there comes the yellow flag. It was unbelievable. Some of these calls
What'd
were
you think about the
absolutely
Westry, the
horrendous.
first PI?
Horrible call.
He pulled him in like that was the James Harden like arm hook
It
at
was,
its
if
best.
anything, offensive interference. He
Yeah,
made a play on the ball, damn
he
near
was
picks it
facing the
off.
ball.
I don't understand. It gave them a massive gain and led to a field goal. To me, it was a horrendous call. Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And then the OPI with Bateman that was non-existent, literally didn't exist.
No, nothing.
Like, I don't
Well,
understand how Chase Claypool can stiff arm every DB in the NFL on every go route he's ever run in his life and never gets called, and that crap gets called. And don't get me. Yeah, that was a frustrating one.
And then sure. Even the call on Freeman for the late hit on the tackle after the fumble.
He thought the play was live still.
Clearly. I mean, it's obvious. It's ridiculous.
He wasn't just mad trying to tackle someone like an idiot.
Nah, these refs were horrible. I couldn't stand them, and really for either direction. I didn't. It's not like I mean, I think the Ravens got the short end of the stick, but it's not like I thought they were. Look, the Ravens had 10 penalties for 125 yards.
Ugh, disgusting. That's
Unbelievable.
A whole field in a quarter.
Yeah. I mean, it's very all right,
let's get back to that. We got to get a couple of these. We got to catch up on
Yeah,
these,
Laura says, why do we go for 2 points? If we had waited, I bet we have gotten 2 points on the let. 100% agree with you, Laura. That was the first note I put down.
Seemed a little too early,
live.
Right?
You don't do it because when you don't get it, it gives the momentum right back to the Browns. If they just kick the field goal, they go down by 8. All momentum still in favor of the Ravens. That 2-point stop, they go, all right, they take a deep breath. They go, all right, we're still up by 2 scores. We're up by 9. I thought it was a horrible. I know that eventually you got to get it, but wait till you got to get it. They didn't need to get it just then. I thought that was a silly call.
Yeah, and I know it was an analytics thing. Of course, is what it came down to. It's what a lot of people were saying. But yeah, I wanted the kick as well. So I'll be interested to see what John's explanation is on that one. MMA Raven says Bateman looked good, but that worries me. Wait, but what worries me? LJ wasn't the one who was passing him. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're referring to the injury or you're referring to the fact that LJ doesn't look his way, I don't know.
Well, the chemistry seems to be between Huntley and Bateman right now and not Lamar and Bateman. And that's, I guess, the concern he's talking about. And I tend to agree with him, but, I do think that eventually we will see that. And then we had previously, we had in his first 6 starts, we saw the chemistry building between Lamar and Bateman as well when he averaged, I think, 6 targets a game or something, or 4 targets a game for his first 6 starts. But I'm more encouraged than
discouraged, right?
Yeah, that who's throwing on the ball. I think Bateman looks like he is going to be. I can't wait to see what Bateman's going to look like after a full off season and all that.
Yeah, I'm just glad to see him go up, extend, use, while he's not a huge guy, he's not a 6'4" guy, he's able to use his body, every single inch of it to extend, high point the ball, go after it. He has good spatial awareness. He obviously, you're right. He looks real. I mean, he looks like the real deal with very little limitations as far as what he can do in a football game. Z the B says analytics, right? Stupid decision by Harbaugh. Love our fight as a team. Lamar getting hurt behind the O-line was coming. What call is that on 4th BS? All right. So a lot there. Mm-hmm. I think the analytics portion, he's talking about the same thing that we talked about, where I think the 2-point conversion was an analytics thing.
Yeah, I still don't get it.
Yeah, I guess
I'm down for analytics, but I don't get that.
I guess the idea was, and I just read a little bit about it, was like better to know now than later. I
I don't get that either.
I
Why
don't
is it better
know.
to know now?
I don't know. Maybe yeah. So I've still got to learn. I got to learn some more about that to figure out what's going on there. But love our fight as a team. I would agree with you. The defense fought hard. Didn't play a perfect game, but I will say that the tackling was improved.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, not perfect. I thought the corners did a good job tackling. Taylor Stevens did a good job tackling.
Stevens had a couple real impressive tackles on
especially on Chubb. Yeah, exactly. Lamar getting hurt behind the O-line was coming. I think a lot of people would say that Lamar rushing getting hurt was coming. It's funny that the only times he's been hurt in the NFL is in the pocket behind the line of scrimmage. And then let me ask you this. I've been waiting to ask you, what did you think about the call on the 4th and 6?
Yeah, I mean, I understood the call, but I mean, obviously I didn't love it. I knew they were going to be bringing the heat. The Ravens knew they were going to be bringing the heat.
Yep.
So they decide, let's call a play that gets the ball out of the hands quickly. The problem is the defense knows what you're going to do to counter their pressure is get the ball out of the hands quickly. And Denzel Ward played a fantastic game. I'm not used to seeing
play physical,
such a physical side of Denzel Ward. He had a big hit on Freeman early and then came up with a big, nice hit on Rashod Bateman at the end. Nice catch by Rashod despite the contact, obviously well short of the first down. But yeah, I'm never the biggest fan of throwing the ball short of the sticks in 4th down. I think I'd like to see the ball travel over the sticks.
Even if it's a 50-50 ball, right? Like, what do you have to lose?
Because then a lot of times the penalties, yeah, I mean, a bunch of things can happen. You could get an interference. You could get something. I didn't love that call by Greg Roman. I understand it to get the ball out, obviously, with Ward. Ward played it perfectly, though. He sagged off the guy, which gave Tyler Huntley the thought and confidence that I could throw it under. But as soon as the ball was snapped, he starts, pushing right to the spot. And so it was a combination. I don't love the call, but I think it was really a nice play by Denzel.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot. We got a lot to talk about here, and we're going to continue to do so. But I want to quickly address one thing. And I tweeted about this, and a lot of you guys might hate me. But I want to start out my comments by saying this. There's no quarterback controversy. The Baltimore Ravens have one of the best quarterbacks and young quarterbacks in the NFL in Lamar Jackson. However, no one is perfect. Lamar Jackson is not Jesus in cleats. And I hope that he has a speedy recovery. I hope it's not a serious injury. But if he can learn one thing, and I'm just saying one thing from Tyler Huntley, and it's no surprise to me that Tyler has this mindset, but it's simply live to play another down. Like, live to play another down. So what I'm referring to is I think it was in the beginning of the 4th quarter, and I know in that same drive, he also got called because he was under duress and he chucked it out of bounds. He got called for a grounding penalty. So it didn't, but 2 plays before that, I think it was, he got blitzed. There was nothing. And so he threw it out of bounds. Simple play. Wasn't a loss. Wasn't a sack. He didn't take a hit. But to me, that's an underrated play because, and then to add on top of my case, there were a few times where Huntley saw the read, and hit the guy. We gained 7 yards. And I know a lot of the times the defense was allowing that. So I'm not too naive to realize that. But even early on in the game, he saw it, he ripped it. Right? Like he was getting the ball out of his hands relatively quick. And so all I want to say is that I hope that Lamar Jackson can also work on getting the ball out of his hands a little quicker and putting the ball in the hands of his playmakers a little faster. Lamar Jackson is an incredible quarterback. I'm just saying that was one difference that I saw between the two. Obviously, I would rather have Lamar Jackson 999 times out of a million with that over Huntley and twice on Sunday. But nonetheless, I think that that's something that he can afford to learn. And just one more thing, Glenn. Anyway, I want to stop there and I want to get your thoughts. And I have something else to mention as well, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think there's no doubt Lamar isn't playing his best right now. I think the Lamar we got used to makes those plays that you're talking about. I just think as of late, for a variety of reasons, he's just not playing his best right now. He's just not seeing things the way he typically does. He's not making the excellent decisions. That's what made Lamar Jackson. That's what makes a lot of players so good is the fact that they're good decision makers. Right now, he's just not a good decision maker with the ball. So, but we've seen him be a great decision maker So I'm still hopeful that he'll get back to that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you 100%. But I think if we are going to throw the ball at a higher clip, you do need to do a little bit more of that, right?
Definitely.
Anyway,
and a lot of quarterbacks get caught up into that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we saw Mahomes at the beginning of the year try and do the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Coast Boy T, Mandrews will break 1,000 yards before the end of the season. Love to see it. Glad to have found this channel last season. Love you guys. Appreciate it, Coast Boy.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate the love.
Would love to know what coast. Let us know.
Yeah. East Coast, West Coast. What are we talking here? But I 100% agree. Mandrews, man, you talk about he's the last, I think, of the top 5 highest paid players. He's the last of the group still on the field.
Crazy.
And it continues to be a rock for us. I mean, the guy is he was sensational today. I mean, what more can you say about that guy? And certainly Huntley's going to need him if he's the starter next week. If it's Lamar, he's going to continue to obviously feed him targets. But we need Mandrews to play like the best tight end in the league if the Ravens have any chance of winning this division.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree on all fronts here. And shout out to Coast Boy T. Absolutely. But I'd want to shout out one of our most faithful viewers, and that's Edwin Navedo, who said that these comments are ridiculous. I'm not going to lie, guys. Some of these comments, look, this is what I wanted to address, and I want to get we might have an argument about this. I don't know, Glenn. I haven't asked you about your feelings about this.
Okay.
But Tyler Huntley had some costly mistakes today. Once again, no quarterback controversy. But the way that he executed the offense and mounted a comeback, does it take any heat off of Greg Roman, right? To know that, like, okay, your superstar quarterback is not in the game and you're at a deficit. You have every reason to lose here, but you coached an undrafted second-year player to come back and take this game down to the wire, right? Now, I understand the defense did their part, but it wasn't like this was a 3-9 game and he just had to put up one touchdown. No, we're talking about a deficit of, they had 24 points at one point. We had 6. So what's that, an 18-point deficit? Is my math right there?
Yep.
Yeah, so does it take any heat off?
It was 24-3 at one point.
Yeah, I think you're right. So does it take any heat off Greg Roman? To me, I feel like if you actually subjectively look at it, that it might take some heat off of him. Because to be able to do that with a backup, with everything, stacked up against you like that, and move the ball down the field so consistently in the second half, I mean, it might say something about your offensive game planning.
I mean, I guess, yeah, you got to give him some credit. I mean, I think the bulk of the credit goes to Huntley and the guys playing on the field, but, I mean, you got to. First of all, you got to give these coaches some credit. How hard is it to not get down on yourself when you look up, you're down by either 18 or more. I think they were up 24-3 at one point. So you're up by 21 or 18, or you're down by 21 or 18. How do you go into the locker room down by 18 and get these guys to come out and show the kind of fight they showed in the second half and beat I mean, think about it. The Ravens won the second half 16-0, Jimmy. 16-0. It wasn't close. As bad as the first half was for the Ravens, that's how bad the second half was for the Cleveland Browns. And that's despite the fact that the Ravens were, again, missing so many key players on both sides of the ball. I mean, the Ravens started this game without Pat Ricard, without Nick Boyle, without Patrick McCary, and then they lost Calais Campbell. They lost Lamar Jackson in the game. I mean, they had nobody left. They're a shell of what they used to be, and yet they win the second half on the road against a Browns team that's been preparing for no one but them for 3 weeks, and they win 16-0 in the second half. You got to give them some credit. I mean, you got to give John some credit for keeping these guys focused and keeping their hope alive, I guess. I mean, you got to do. He must have had something to say in that locker room, and you got to give Wink credit and that defense credit for making key stops. They forced a long field goal attempt, which was missed. They did a lot of things that you just got to tip your cap to them. I mean, of course, the players get the bulk of the credit, but you can't deny the coaching staff did a fantastic job and were a big part of the reason the Ravens got back in the game, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I thought that narrative was interesting because everyone talks about how Roman is holding Lamar Jackson back. And I will also readily admit here that there are some head scratchers, right? Like we watch some of these the passing game scheme. We watch some of these plays, and ESPN is criticizing him and this, that, and the other. But then you see something like that, and I realize it was all phases involved, but you see something like that where Tyler Huntley has, without the costly mistakes, has a solid game.
Yeah.
And behind Greg Roman's play calling, and you can't just say, let's replace Greg Roman. You can't do that. Yeah. I don't think that makes much sense either. So I know people are emotional, and I get it. And I'm not saying that he won't be replaced at the end of the season, depending on how the season goes, ends up. But certainly, I don't think that it's fair to say that Lamar Jackson drags this offense, even though the offensive play call is terrible. Because if that were the case, we would have gotten ramrodded the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tyler Huntley's not Lamar Jackson. Like, you can't have it both ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and as much as you like to say, well, these guys are professionals, they're still getting paid, they should always give it their best, they're still human beings. They still realize the reality of the situation when they watch key contributor after key contributor go to the training room. There's no, so yeah, there's, of course, you'd like them to be professionals and always give 100% effort, but you don't think that, there's some Lions players looking at and already starting to plan vacations? You don't think there's already some players out there?
They've been officially eliminated from playoff contention mathematically today.
Yeah. Like, you don't think that some of that is because they know they have no shot? Like, I mean, come on, you got to give them a little bit of credit here. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't know how they don't get credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see, I'm looking through my notes here to see if I have a couple other, obviously we got it. We talked about it off the jump, but Justin Tucker, heck of a game. I mean, to be kicking into those wins and stay perfect. I mean, man, that guy is a gem and an absolute pleasure to watch, as far as being the true. Pat McAfee called him the truest kicker of the football he's ever seen, the best striker of the football he's ever seen in his entire life. So blessing that he's on our team, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that you mentioned that I wanted to bring up as well, Stevens, I'm trying to bring up some silver lining stuff here, but like Stevens had a great tackling game.
Yep. Well, he had 6 solo tackles, 8 total. And yeah, I mean, I think he was impressive. And we got to always remind ourselves how young this guy is to the position, to defensive side of the football. And obviously being a rookie in the league, stepping into some pretty big shoes of the Joker and what he was able to establish the year he stayed last year when he stayed healthy. So I think he played impressive. I think Kevon Seymour had some bright moments, despite the fact that he should never.
You're right.
If there's not injuries, he's never even on this team. But he comes out and makes plays. I thought Jalen Ferguson had another stinker of a game, and there was moments where he had some opportunity to influence, and he just stinks. I mean, Jalen Ferguson just stinks out loud. Sorry, I just had to take a shot at him because there was a couple plays where it's like, he had an opportunity to maybe influence Baker, and he just gets pushed right over. It's just so bad. Broderick Washington had a big hit on Baker, filling in after Calais. He certainly got more snaps after Calais went out, and he played pretty well. Adafe Owe had moments where I thought he played well. He played the run.
Did you see him tackle Chubb like a lion takes down a wild boar? Just jumped on his back and everything. And I mean, Adafe Owe, you're right. But sorry to cut you off there. The other thing I want to mention too, Tylan Wallace went out with a concussion, if I'm not mistaken, but he's been playing well on special teams. You know what? I didn't realize he was that fast. But every time he's on special teams, dude is blazing down the field.
Yeah. Phil Wemeti, I think it's Phil Wemett. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
4th and 6, Roman calls a short slant. There's no chance it was going to work. I don't know what this coaching staff is doing. It's so frustrating. I don't think we need to replace him, but it's still bad. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I'd like to see the ball go past the sticks. I get why he did it, because they knew the pressure was coming, and they thought if they could get a ball quickly over the middle that, he'd be able to run for the remaining yards. But I tend to agree with you. I like to see the ball travel over the first down marker anytime you're in a 4th and to go situation. So I definitely agree with you, although I understand the thought process. I thought Denzel Ward played it phenomenally. He sagged off, gave the illusion that the play would be there, and as soon as the ball was snapped, came hard pressing down and made a really nice tackle on Bateman there.
I mean, I agree with you here, Glenn, is that I want this past the line. I mean, past the line to gain. But I also wonder, like, if you go back and look at this, that was his read, right? That was his hot read, because he knew, they were bringing.
He got to the hot.
Right. So, but what was the actual play? You know what I mean? The Browns did a good job of forcing him into that, and I realize you got to create something
It was a
more
free
than just
runner. I
that.
mean, he couldn't have done much
Right.
more than what he did
Right.
unless there was another hot he could have
Or
gone to.
unless you're Lamar Jackson, right? Like,
Yeah, and you make
he's not Lamar Jackson.
Right.
It's like I readily recognize that, and we might be used to Lamar shaking a guy like that out of his shoes, but Tyler Huntley's not that guy.
I mean, if you think about it, like what else? It's just tough because they're bringing the heat at that play. I mean, they're going to bring the noise. They're going to say, "All right, you got to beat us." But again, I'd like to see the ball travel over the sticks, no doubt about it. Ravens O's Nation says, "I know everyone wants to be optimistic, and normally I am as well. But does anyone actually think this team can beat Green Bay and LA? This was a season killer." I tell you, I don't. I certainly have my doubts on both. The only thing I'll say, maybe in the LA game, that's a heck of a travel, and they're not necessarily playing their best right now.
And both are at home. Like, that helps.
But I agree with you. I think that they'll be underdogs. If Huntley's at quarterback, they'll be underdogs, and rightfully so. They definitely will be against Green Bay. LA,
Lamar or not.
Yeah, LA. Who knows? But yeah. I mean, it certainly doesn't look good. Phil, we met says, by the way, if we don't take chances on O-line this upcoming draft, I'm going to go insane. We need a better O-line. 100%.
Can I say something though? I think everyone's forgetting if Ronnie Stanley comes back healthy, right?
Yeah.
And Juwan James is healthy, who is already practicing. Those are some serious bookends we got right there. You know what I mean? Just like, forget the interior of the line, but if those two are there and they're healthy, already a serious improvement, because Alejandro Villanueva, I love him as a human. I've said this before. I want my son to be like him when he grows up. No chance of being as tall, but in person, in character. So if you just do that, that's already huge improvement without drafting anyone. Like, don't sleep on the fact that, Juwan James, if I'm not mistaken, is a former Pro Bowler. Unless I'm mistaken about that, but I think he's made a Pro Bowl.
I think he may have been a 1-year.
He's a solid player at the very least, right?
Oh, he's certainly a massive upgrade from Tyree Phillips.
Tyree Phillips, who did you see Tyler Huntley coaching him? Like, dude, you're blocking the wrong guy.
Yes, he looked pissed off, actually.
Yeah. So you got that guy on the right side, you got an All-Pro on the left side, and then if we can retain Bozeman, and you already got Zeitler under contract.
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere.
Right. So I understand that those are some ifs, but those aren't ifs as far as like, if this guy can play like he did 8 years ago, if this guy can play like he did 10 years ago. No, like these guys.
But having said that, Jimmy, having said all of that, if there's a great O lineman there,
it depends on the position for me. Like,
well, even if it's a right tackle, if it's a tackle. So hold on, if it's a great tackle and he falls there, you feel good enough about Ronnie's recent injury and really throughout his career injury history, Juwan James injury history. You feel good enough. I mean, look, I wouldn't be upset if the Ravens went out and got,
I get it.
I wouldn't get upset if they get anybody on the offensive line, but I understand the optimism surrounding the guys that will be back. But I think you win with you win in the trenches a lot of times, and I think you tend to agree with me there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I guess I would have a hard time passing. Obviously, we saw my reaction to passing and getting Odafe Oweh. Didn't we pass on what's his name? Went to the Bears.
Yeah, but who's been banged up a lot?
Has the back
Jenkins.
Jenkins, yeah, Trevor Jenkins, I think was his name, right? Tevin Jenkins.
That's what I was like. It's close. You were close.
But certainly, I guess all I'm trying to say is that the pieces are there on the roster.
In theory, on paper, they're certainly there.
So I would agree with you that, like, I'm not going to be against getting a guy. I would be more for getting a right tackle than a left tackle, because I think there's more questions about Juwan James than there are about Ronnie Stanley, and we've invested gobs of money in Ronnie Stanley at this point. But there are pieces. There are solutions to the issue on the roster.
Yeah.
So that at least is a good sign, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, there's optimism looking forward. It's not like, oh my goodness, like these guys are old. Like if there was just Villanueva and there was no Ronnie Stanley, we'd be like panic mode at left tackle, because this guy's clearly playing his final. If this isn't his last year, it's certainly one of, and I don't think he'll be starting anywhere next year if he does get picked up.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, this is it for him for sure. And I know that a lot of people will say, oh, well, the Ravens signed him for 2 years. That was a front loaded. Really, it's a 1-year deal. I don't even know if there's any guaranteed money for next year anyway. I think it's all
Yeah, I think it could have ended up being just a 1-year thing they get out from under.
Yeah, I think it was $8 million guaranteed or whatever the case may be, and I'm sure that was very front loaded. So,
Yeah.
all right.
But I want to say, Nana. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Bateman's touchdown. I think it was a touchdown.
Yeah,
but they scored on the very next play, so it was really no harm done. The fact that Harbaugh didn't challenge, I think that. Yeah, it ended up being.
I think the reason he didn't challenge is because, yeah, exactly. They had confidence that they could get it in on the one.
But was it odd at all that was the only random brief sighting of Latavius Murray? They bring him in. That's his only carry. I don't see him the rest of the game.
These days.
It's just odd that they would almost reward him and not like. Do you think that Freeman couldn't have scored on that play? Like, I just think it's odd that that's the only time we saw him.
Latavius Murray is just a load. And he just leans forward. He's 6'3", so like all he's got to do is
just reach out.
Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I tend to agree with you there, but I want to talk about a couple other guys on their side. Baker Mayfield goes 22 of 32, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. But really, what I want to talk about is all the dropped interceptions that could have been. I mean, there was a play I marked it down here.
The Brandon Stevens.
Dude, Brandon Stevens dropped the same interception twice.
Oh my God.
And they were both easy.
The announcer, did you see the announcer even said, and this is intercepted? Oh, wait.
Yeah, he thought for sure. I mean, it was the second drop. Off, he bounces it to himself. The second one may have been the easiest dropped interception in history. I mean, it was so simple.
Does Keith Williams and T. Martin, do they need to start working with the DBs?
Why not?
They need to start throwing them some soccer balls because Chuck Clark doesn't want the football. And
neither does Brandon Stevens. Neither does Marlon Humphrey. Dropped.
Yeah, Brandon Stevens had 9 interceptions last year, something like that in college. Something ridiculous. He has decent ball skills.
You got to. I mean, that was rough. I mean, I know they probably wear like different kinds of gloves. I mean, I assume they do, but maybe slap some wide receiver gloves on these guys and some stick them to go with it because that could have been another game-changing type play. Got to give credit to Anthony Averett.
Yep. Right when they were starting to praise Baker. Did you hear that?
Yep.
He's
right
15
when they were
to
starting.
17 and 10 for 10 and right
it
on
goes
time.
The other way. Yeah. And the fact that Averett has been, rightfully so, criticized a ton this year. He's now our number 1. And I thought he played pretty darn good today. And of course the pick, helps him look even better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would agree with you 100%. Should we get to our over-unders here?
Yeah, I guess so, because I have a bit of a bone to pick with both of you guys on some of these. But yeah, let's get into it.
Oh, here we go.
Let's get into our competition results and see see who the winner is on the show here. Right. Every week, of course, we have a series of over-unders and closest to the pin challenges, and the winner is announced both amongst our show and amongst the fans in every post-game show, and this is no different. So let's just get right into the results because I do have a bone to pick with you and DK on some of these scoring results.
Hello. That's right. Tell him, DK. I win, Glenn. I mean, we didn't even go through them like we normally do, but we can do that. So you can state your case here.
Well, I don't have much of a problem with the over-unders. As much as I do with the supposed closest to the pin results because...
But it doesn't matter. I was 3 out of 4.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. But Jimmy was not the closest when it came to score. Or it was a DK they said was close. I'm the only one that picked the correct winner. So if it would have come down to that, is all I'm saying is I thought correct.
It's total score.
But you have to pick the right winner. It's just we always pick the Ravens, so it's never come down to that. But
I'm okay with it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's clarified. So, yes, Jimmy won. The reason he basically won was because the Ravens' pass attempts, me and DK both said under 32.5. It was well above that, and Jimmy was correct in predicting that.
And you almost came over to my side. Remember that?
I almost did, but I stuck with my guns, and I shouldn't have. But, yeah, so Jimmy was this week's winner. Taking away the title from DK and further pushing me down the scoreboard.
Oh, no music this week, bro.
Good. I didn't like that music.
I'm loving it. Here we go. DK, you better look out, bro. Jeez, I'm coming for you. Glenn.
What, Jimmy?
What's going on, dude?
It's not going good, man. It's not going good.
Oh man. Oh, I don't know what else to say. But we got to get to the most important winner today. We have a new winner. And then I promise, who's this? Joe, Eliza, we will get to your chat. We are appreciative of it. Just let us get to our winner really quickly. Glenn, here we go. You want to get it to us?
Adrian Ortega, shout out. Nailed it. Was certainly better than me. Better than Jimmy. What was he? 2 points off the tiebreaker, which was the total score. He predicted just 2 points off the final score.
And there was a lot of people that were 3 out of 4 today, so it was required.
Yeah, a lot of people were
close win for him.
Exactly. So shout out to Adrian. Adrian, all you have to do now is simply DM us again, like you did when you entered your predictions. DM us again with your shirt size and your address, and we will have a shirt out to you in the mail. So shout out to Adrian. Thanks for participating to everyone in this week's competition.
I think we had the most entrants, and it might have been double what it was last week. A ridiculous amount of entrants.
That is awesome, man. We appreciate that. Absolutely. And we will, of course, have another competition next week. So if you want to get into that one, pay attention to our preview show, which happens live every Friday evening, and then come back right here in the post-game show next week for the results of that test. Joe Eliza says, why does the game plan change so drastically when Lamar is not under center? I couldn't help but scratch my head. You know, it's tough to know if the game plan did, in fact, change because he was under center, or if just because the game situation forced them to go away from their game plan because they were down 24-6 in the second half. Or was it just the execution changed? Because they're two different guys, right?
Yeah, that's the hard thing to decipher. I don't think the game plan changed, right? But what I think changed was a couple things. And people are really going to hate me. That's okay. Lamar Jackson falls in love with the home run play. That's the curse of being the best playmaker in the NFL. And Tyler Huntley, I think today just did a decent job of staying a little more patient. I won't even say execution because Lamar can execute like no other. But I think patience was the name of the game today for Tyler Huntley, and it paid off for him. Once again, no quarterback controversy. I'm just saying that I think that was.
I love how you have to keep qualifying throughout.
Because if not, I'm going to get buried by every single Ravens fan.
Don't be scared, dude. Don't be scared.
Every single Ravens fan that's been a Ravens fan since 2019, get over it. Lamar Jackson, fine. Get over it. Lamar Jackson isn't perfect. He's an incredible football player. He's the best quarterback we ever had. He's a top 3 quarterback. All I'm saying is that Lamar, just like any other guy who has incredible playmaking ability, falls in love with the big play, whether it's with his feet, whether it's holding the ball longer and pushing it downfield, whatever it is. Tyler Huntley can't do that. So that was me. I think my hands are going crazy over here, but Tyler Huntley can't do that. So he didn't have a choice. So he just took what was in front of him and lived to make another play, right? That's all it was. And obviously that didn't win us the game, but certainly brought us into the game. And I think that, we were a couple plays from that game looking different if like you said, a couple interceptions were caught, if he doesn't have 2 fumbles, but the execution was different today. And I think patience was the name of the game. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. And sometimes just being on schedule. I mean, if you just go, all right, this play, you drop 3 steps. If this is there, you fire it. If it's not there, you look here next, and then check down is here. Sometimes it's just staying with the basics, and sometimes the backup comes in, and that's a lot of times that's all he knows to do.
Exactly.
So,
right.
And that's what he does. And so it looks a little bit different. But of course, we're hopeful that Lamar will be back out there next year.
Yes, next
absolutely.
Game, I mean, that goes without saying. Anyone that says Tyler Huntley's our quarterback going forward, you're an idiot.
There we go. Okay. So Phil says also, is it me or whenever we get a touchdown, we automatically have to go for 2? We're doing need to go for 2 every single. We don't need to go for 2 every single time. Tag the 1 and be down by 8. 1 possession is better than being down by 9.
I agree with that breakdown, right? Don't you?
Yeah, because here's the thing. I get the whole point. I'd rather know I need a field goal now, or I need more points now than I would want to know that if I don't get the 2-point conversion and now there's 30 seconds left in the game. I get it. I get why what the logic is. However, we all agree that when, let's say the Ravens do score, now they only need a 2-point conversion, there's 30 seconds left. It's just like when we needed a onside kick, and that guy, for whatever reason, decided to block instead of playing the football, and it banged off his shoulder. And the reason is when there's big time moments and big time situations, we get tight. We get a little nervous. We understand the situation. So I just feel like when the defense is in that situation, faced with, if they get the 2-point conversion, boom, now we're probably going to overtime. I just feel like the scenario would have allowed. I don't know. I would want to have that pressure on the defense at the end of the game. It's either we stop them and we win, or we go to overtime and take our chances there. I think you put that pressure on them late, and you make them make a big time stop on that 2-point conversion with all the pressure on the line. That's just my thought, because when you don't get it, all momentum right back to the Browns. They know they're up by 2 scores. And I don't know. I guess there's 2 ways of thought, and both are good if you're right and you execute. But I tend to agree with Phil on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree as well. Let's get to. This is interesting, Glenn. Let's get to our symbol. Our partner in the show today. Symbol, of course, is where we put all of our sports investment money, is what we're calling it. Our sports investment money, whether it's gambling or investing. Something interesting. Now, maybe this hasn't updated, but obviously we have a lot of stock in the Ravens. As of right now, even though we lost, that stock has not dropped. Interesting to see what happens when.
Let's see what happens tomorrow
with the Lamar news.
If there's any news,
certainly.
We may have to make some hard decisions with our Ravens stock. But, however, I will say this: I still think that it's a long-term play is still very much a good play to hang on to this Ravens stock.
Absolutely, 100%, and simply because the cool thing about Symbol, guys, is that the 2 ways that you win money are they're distinct from one another. You can win money by buying low, selling high. Where the Ravens, we bought high, but we're making money the other way off of game winnings. Mm-hmm. So when the Ravens win, we still get paid out in similar to what a dividend would be. You get game earnings per share. So it's a really easy way to make money, and there's a risk-free way to invest now, right, Glenn?
Yeah, absolutely. If you use promo code 410, all you have to do, you have $500 of risk-free money for the first 6 months. I mean, you can invest $500 for 6 months, and if you don't like it, or if you don't feel confident that you can make your money or win more money, then you pull it out, no harm, wash your hands of it, you move on. So we encourage everyone to at least give it a shot, because I think you'll find that investing in something you're passionate about, that about, that you're confident in, is a lot better than just hoping. I guess I'm doing this right in the real stock market. I always say, go with what you're passionate about, go with what you know, and that's football. So yeah, why not? You have 500. You if it's not 500, you put up 300, put up 100, put up whatever you can afford, and always make sure you do so responsibly and within your means.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is that, like Glenn said, it's simple as 3 numbers, 410. Use the promo code. Check it out, guys. And also, feel free, when we talk about Symbol, let us know how your experience is going. We'd love to know if you're killing it.
Yeah, we just heard from a fan who absolutely been killing it lately. So please share us your win. Let us know. Hey guys, I put my money in this or that. And I'm certainly going through the roof, and it's not just football. This is basketball. This is hockey. This is baseball, college football. All the major sports are represented there, and you can certainly get on board using promo code 410. But I want to ask you something here, Jimbo. When you look forward to when you look towards the end of the season and you look around the AFC North and the AFC in general, if Lamar Jackson's only out for a short period of time, looks like it's an ankle sprain, but we all know ankle sprains, it's hard to predict until you find the degree, and even then it can be hard to predict. Is this like panic time for you? Like, are the injuries piling up? Are you willing to say, all right, this might be too much for the Ravens to overcome now? This might be, let's start looking to the offseason.
Can't believe you're putting me in this situation.
I mean, I got to know. I think a lot of Ravens fans are wrestling with this in their head. I mean, we want to be optimistic.
Well, let's just say that the Ravens obviously are never going to say die. And so let's just ride with it. I think that's the best mentality to have. Like, I get it, but the best say we end up what will we end up 8-9 or something like that? Like, say we lose out. What does that get us? 15th pick in the draft?
It's still not going to be great. Yeah, somewhere in the teens.
You know what I mean? So it's not we're not getting a top 10, guys. We're not getting a top 5. Like,
you can still find great players.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, we've seen with the Raiders. Now we're much better drafters. But how many?
And hold on, before you say, I just want to add one more thing. Right now, it looks like they have 9 picks. So while they maybe say picking 14, they could certainly jump into the top 10.
Yeah, but the draft is certainly no guarantee. We've seen that it's a crapshoot. The Ravens are great drafters, but I think living to play for the draft is not a good. I mean, look at Jacksonville.
Yeah,
like they're not good, and they had a ton of draft picks.
Look at Cleveland.
Yeah,
they're still not going anywhere. I don't care how they won the game. Yeah, they still suck, and so does Baker.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, goodness gracious. Yeah, so I'm not for it. I say you fight it out till the season is over and see what comes of it. You can't ever say die until the season's over. I mean, unless you're mathematically eliminated, like the Jaguars. So I just don't know what else to say there. That's just, I don't know. That's not my mentality. What about you?
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think this team continues to show why they're a winning organization. You come out of that second half when the game looks to be over. Everyone thinks this game is over, and they damn near come back and win this game. I think
Dude,
you
the onside kick.
I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That guy. First of all, that guy was horrible. That guy did not want that ball going towards him at all.
Fullback right there for you, baby.
He was terrified. He's like, "I'll block, guys."
Do you think that Tucker knows who he's kicking at?
Oh, he picks a pigeon.
Yeah.
He picks someone. He's like,
now I want the big boy. Give me the big boy.
Yeah, give me the guy who looks like he's got blocking gloves on instead of receiving gloves. They look padded and not sticky. Yeah, I mean, I think that right now there's no doubting that this is a super uphill climb for the Ravens. But I still think they're going to give it everything they got. I don't see John letting this team off the hook from an effort standpoint, from a preparation standpoint. I still think that this team will continue to fight. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, say they split, right? They go, because say they beat Cincy in some way, shape, or form. And say they beat a
huge win.
And say they beat the Steelers. We'll just say they win those 2.
That's 2 division games, biggest ones that left. Yeah.
So if they win those 2, they'll be what, 10-6? Is 10-6 enough? Like, we don't know at this point if 10
Well, there's 17 games. So
why am I saying 10-6?
They'd have to be 10-7 if they only win those 2.
Yeah,
I think it's enough. The AFC wild card?
It's just really hard not to know and to know at this point. So it's going to be really interesting. And one thing's for sure, guys, we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to be talking about it tomorrow.
Lots to talk about tomorrow.
And or Tuesday.
We'll have to line our
But either way,
up.
This week we got a lot to talk about. A lot. So make sure you keep it locked. Right here.
Absolutely. And
I wanted to say that my whole life. Keep it locked.
How does it feel? It
feels good.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack from this game, and also I'm sure there's going to be a lot to unpack once we hopefully hear some more about the injury tomorrow. I'm hopeful that John won't be quite as tight-lipped about it as he can be sometimes when talking about injuries. What's that?
Keep hoping.
Yeah, because we probably won't hear a lot, but we'll certainly know by his practice participation throughout the week. But yeah, it might have to wait a little bit longer than tomorrow or the following day. But Jimmy, this was another one. But I you know what? It's this one reminded me of the Raiders game because it's like we lost twice. It's like I already felt like it was over, we were done, and then I'm like, well, actually, no, I think we're going to win this game, and then we lost again. And it's very similar to that Raiders game. But hopefully next week will be better. That's all we can do is hope.
I agree 100%. And we appreciate all of you guys for coming out. Hope you enjoyed the show and had a good time with us as well. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you know every time we put a new video out, because when there is Ravens news, you can come here for the first response and get our thoughts. We appreciate all you guys participating in the chat today. A few shout outs: Adam Whittington, Tim Adi. Body. How does that song go? Yeah, you know. Anyway,
yeah.
so that's how I'm gonna remember that from now on. Donovan Sales Jr., Nana, of course, Lisa for being the most positive Ravens fan ever on the face of the planet, Prince Quan, and all the folks that sent in super chats. We appreciate it. Of course, Phil, Wimedi. Let's see. Let me give a Joe Eliza. I think it was the first time he sent one in. So thank you so much. We love it. As always, if you want to get a guaranteed response, feel free to send them in. DK, thanks for coming through for us this week. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. We got the music this time. We'll leave you with this. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.